Good morning. Glad to be back here on LinkedIn Live, Twitter Live, a few other platforms. Been out traveling, doing some work, of course, and busy, but I always like to share consistently some of the things going on in the market, some things that might be going on at the Institute of Higher Education, or things that could be going on at 3E. But there was an article out recently from the Chronicle of Higher Education, one that really was part of 3E's founding. Our concept, this is 4 years old from our perspective and how we've been thinking, but it's worthy. It requires constant attention. So I wanted to talk a little bit about their article around flagships. For the most part, in selective institutions are gaining share. So here's just the article. Came out, again, very recently. Flagships prosper. In this case, it was comparing their enrollment growth over regional publics. But if you look at the analysis, this is also the case over private schools as well, that highly selective or very selective, and a group of flagships are gaining share while the other institutions as categories or individual outliers are losing share. This is happening widespread across the nation, and for good reason, by the way. So here the Chronicle article references that a set of flagships, not all, but a set of flagships grew by 12% over roughly 11 years. So enrollment's not growing by 11%. So there are institutions or categories of institutions that are gaining share and taking share away from other institutions. There's absolutely been a change in the order of our market. Absolutely. We saw this again when we started 3E. This is one of the reasons we started 3E, because we saw this very, very clearly, and institutions were in no way ready and prepared and weren't taking the steps to respond to it. So highly selective institutions, we all know who they are. You can look them up. They've got the rankings behind them. It's a small set of schools. They were a leader. They're still a leader. Flagships, or a particular group of them, and other, let's say, large institutions, they are leaders today. They are leaders today. There's a whole list of reasons. Their academic quality, the affordability, and the experience all add up to a tremendous value proposition with global brand reach. And the privates who are not in the selective category are absolutely moved down a level, and their reputation and demand in the market. And then regional publics they desire to be more like the flagships. And you can see it, they've changed. They've started to add more sports, they've been more aggressive in discounting, they're pushing out scholarships, they're focusing on their campus. They desire to be a flagship, but it's a long putt. So they're in that fourth position. Let's talk a little bit about each school. Like, why did this happen? Here's just a few. Honestly, when I go to campus, I talk to presidents, I talk to boards. There's a lot more time than doing LinkedIn Live for a minute. But a few seminal moments. There's a list of other things that have transpired, but it's noteworthy to remember that ESPN started in 1979. It's one of several, but it is a turning point to what we see today on large-scale global interest in college athletics. Google comes around 1998, and they index the internet. And instantly, this becomes the source of information for all of us. And what happens is, the more content you have, the better and more easier it is to find you. So the way the page, search engine results page works has to do with authority, credibility, content, referencing, links. There's a various quality score that goes into it. Well, by the way, the larger your following, the more interest there is in your institution, the more press you have, the more coverage you get. It all leans to your advantage. So again, these flagships and highly esteemed institutions are set up for success automatically in the online world. Then there's social media. Facebook, one of many now. It's Meta. Now we have Instagram, we have Snapchat. We have many other tools to communicate, and it allowed communities of interests of students, faculty, alumni in particular, to connect and share their passion for their institution in a massive way all the time. I went to UCF. When I was there was maybe 20 some odd thousand students. It's now 79,000. 79,000 students. It doesn't happen just because of your enrollment office. This is an institution, and social media, along with big sports, has had a big impact. A big impact. We're one of the largest online communities in the nation, and that has dramatically added to UCF's position nationally as a leading institution. So social media has tremendous effects, and then you can't underestimate what it means to be on TV in front of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people every single Saturday. Now, whether it's football or it's the Final Four, you're talking about almost every single day, around the clock, East Coast to West Coast, institutions who have fairly large, at least Division I sports programs, get constant coverage, and it adds to the excitement, the interest, the experience, and the alumni connection of those institutions. Along this axiom, there is a story that's been unfolding now for several decades. The notion of college debt and the awareness, the discussion of college debt has dramatically increased, and the value of a college degree in many circles has been under attack. So these things create a situation where large flagships have strong experience, good affordability, and strong academics, along with highly selective institutions, which are well known for being a good investment on a career and networking perspective. And you see this gap is getting wider. Facilities, money, endowment, funds, alumni, TV interest, all is just making it very, very difficult. And that has reordered our markets. Now, it's not that we can't, if you're an institution and outside looking in, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful, but it does mean you need to change to be successful. So when we think about the flagships, what's really interesting, while it's a small group, remember, they're not all leaders. There are laggards. There are laggards in this group as well. But it's a really fascinating time because now they're nationally competing with one another. They're not just state schools. You know, it's you can rattle off flagship letters. They are national brands with national recruiting and now nationally competing with one another. They also have, from our perspective, particularly 3E's perspective, a growing responsibility to carry the torch to lower socioeconomic areas, whether it's towards the inner city or out to rural areas where education needs to advance, to be offered, to be accessed. These institutions, unlike any other, are best positioned to make a serious dent in college access. So, you know, many of the leaders I've met do carry this particular torch. We're excited about it. We think it's an important role of our flagship institutions, but it's also now incredibly hard to stand out. So for these schools, it's not going to be about getting simply more applications. There are some flagships in the Midwest, for example, that are getting 85,000 applications. They're going to be fine with filling their class, but now it's about rounding out that class, shaping that class to get the right students from whatever the charter and interests of that institution are. But you do need to stand out because those students are likely also being recruited by the other flagships around you and around the nation. So innovation becomes the carrying card for flagships and selectives to stand out because they're competing nationally with one another. So privates, regional publics, situation is difficult, but can still be achieved, right? Competition is with one another. So, you know, if you ask a private school and their leadership who their competition is in that, you know, more traditional sense, they'll rattle off a handful of typically private schools that look like them within a small geographical area. Well, that's not the case anymore. That's not the case. The flagship is not just a competitor, not just your flagship, but flagships around the nation are coming into your territory. They're on the ground, boots on the ground, they're recruiting, and they're pulling students out to gain that share. regional publics are seeing the same pull. This is a difficult environment because the competition for these students from all of these national schools are there. So what comes to mind right there is to really develop a position of strength. This is not a quick and easy answer, but when you're in this position, you can still thrive and excel when you're excellent at something or some set of things. It could be, a set of academic areas where you excel. It could be the campus, could be experience. There's various types of things, but you do need to pursue an excellent lane. We call them at 3 excellence lanes, advantage lanes. These are areas where you can compete with anyone at any level in your area where you choose to be excellent at. And then the next, which we do know a lot about, is the marketing today has to change. It's again why we founded 3E, because today's marketing needs to be a lot more like Apple, especially if you're in this category. You're not able to just send out long emails and have tons of words and not have great graphics and send this out on some push schedule in 10 or 12 and expect to compete in the market where the consumer companies are pursuing these same students for many other opportunities. So modern marketing is now a must to fill a class. We call it hold serve, then eventually break serve, which is growing your institution. So now more than ever, if you're in this group, you want to find lanes of excellence, your lanes of advantage, and then you want modern marketing to compete in a world in which the other institutions, typically the ones that are more selective and flagships, have tremendous marketing advantages. So a couple thoughts to wrap things up. Highly selective flagships are going to continue to expand. There are leaders and laggards. They're not all leaders. They have their own competition to work through. And athletic recruiting, a whole nother discussion, is absolutely influencing the recruiting practices on these campuses, and for good reason, because athletic recruiting, they have a high bar, they do amazing things, it's highly competitive. The student is being, an athlete at the D1 level is being recruited nationwide by many programs. So the level of recruiting that goes on in the athletic area is amazing. And now the general student population recruiting practices are starting to take notice and be influenced by that. On the private and regional public side, value proposition needs to become a key focus. Being small, personal, having 30 majors, 30 clubs, and 15-1 or 12-1 student to faculty ratios, that is not a strong value proposition. The market has spoken. This is not my own personal opinion. Student preferences are clear. Family preferences are clear. They are choosing to go in another direction in large numbers. That's what the value proposition needs to evolve into. Excellence needs to be things that you're excellent at. Now, marketing, totally new expectations. Amazon, Apple, your other experience, your consumer experience sets the bar. That's the bar that students expect. And when you're not reaching that bar, it's going to be very hard to drive interest and awareness at your institution. Growth is possible. Just because this area feels and is more difficult does not mean that growth is not possible. We see it in our data. We see it with our clients. By and large, our clients' results do not mirror these large category results. But it takes investment in your value proposition and modern marketing, and then of course doing a great job on campus when the students are there, engaging and following up with you. So there is hope. Look, our big view is that everyone can succeed, that there are enough future students. Don't listen to the cliff. There's millions of students not attending higher education. They have tremendous potential. We believe they should go to college. College is for them. There's plenty of future students for every institution to grow and thrive. Making the case for education in new and modern ways is up to all of us. That's why we wake up in the morning. I know it's why many of you wake up in the morning. So let's do a great job together. Let's see all of our categories grow, more students get to higher education, more institutions financially healthy, and the communities around those institutions, let's help them thrive as well. So those are a few thoughts for today. You make it a great day, and I will talk to you again soon.